Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to City of Milton. We've got some special guests here tonight to receive some proclamations, so we appreciate you guys being here. But before we officially get started, I'd like to welcome Deacon Joe Pupo from St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church to lead us in our invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. I think we're on here. We stand before you, O God, conscious of our weaknesses, but filled with the hope of your presence as we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom. Support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of your heavenly kingdom and your great creation. You desire justice for all. Enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful to all that is true. We ask these things as we gather in your name. May we temper justice with love so that all our decisions may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. We ask these things through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deacon.
Have a great meeting. God bless you all.
Appreciate you being here. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting for the Milton City Council for Wednesday, February 17th, 2016 to order. Stacy, this is the acting city clerk. Will you please call the roll and make general announcements?
Mayor and Council, on behalf of the call roll for the February 17th, 2016 regular meeting, I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment, either during the public hearings or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on an item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. The city council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will respect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman. Here. Councilmember Matt Coons.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Russ.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Moore.
Here.
And Councilmember Bart Hewitt is absent and excused. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I want to welcome everybody here, and we're proud to have you here and appreciate you coming tonight. And again, look forward to giving you some proclamations. Stacy, if you will please sound the first item on the agenda.
First item is approval of the meeting agenda. Agenda item number 16-043.
Okay, do I have a motion on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Sudie, do we have any public comment? Anybody doing any public comment cards? Okay.
Susan.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's automatic.
I think I looked over and Rob was sitting there. My bad. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Stacy, if you'll please read the consent agenda.
Consent agenda. First item is approval of the February 1st, 2016 regular city council meeting minutes. It's agenda item number 16-044. Second item is approval of the financial statements for the period ending January 2016. Agenda item number 16-045. Our third consent agenda item is approval of a memorandum of understanding and MOU between the city of Sandy Springs and the city of Milton, operator John Street and Roswell, for the purpose of retaining a North Fulton T-SPLOST project consultant. Agenda item number 16-046. Our fourth and final consent agenda item is approval of a software beta test agreement with Tyler Technologies Incorporated. Agenda item number 16-047.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on into our reports and presentations. We'll start out with our Rotary Has a Heart presentation, and then for our student painters who may wait, we've got a couple other individuals that are on their way here, so we may wait just a few minutes on that one. But we'll start with the Rotary Has a Heart. Let me. Tonight, we're honored to have the following individuals here to represent the Rotary, the Rotary Club, their Rotary Club, and receive a proclamation. They are Trey Tompkins, President of the Milton Windward Rotary Club; Bob Hagan, the District Governor; Stacy Inglis of Milton Windward Rotary Club, also our City Clerk; Mike Swago, Councilmember Rick Morrig is here; Cindy Ringwald and Eric Ringwald; Jim Squire, who's Assistant District Governor, is here too. So it's an honor to present this proclamation, and I'm going to read it first, then I'm going to ask you guys to come forward. This proclamation: Rotary Has a Heart. Whereas Rotary International, founded February 23rd, 1905 in Chicago, Illinois, USA, is the world's first and one of the largest nonprofit service organizations. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary Club members comprised of professional, business, and community leaders in over 34,823 clubs in 206 countries and geographic areas. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas local clubs are encouraged to participate in a community service project centered around Rotary International's 6 areas of service: basic education and literacy, economic and community development, disease prevention and treatment, peace and conflict, prevention and resolution, water and sanitation, maternal and child health. And whereas Rotary is committed to adopting projects to help do good in the world, and the Milton Windward Rotary Club is one of approximately 1,600 clubs throughout 8 states and the District of Columbia in the United States and 20 countries of the Caribbean, and more than 67,500 members sponsoring a project in the first quarter of the year 2016. Finding Valentine's Day 2016 directly in the middle of this time to satisfy a need in its community, thus doing good in the world. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Milton, hereby proclaim February 14th, 2016 as Rotary Has a Heart Day in the City of Milton, and encourage all citizens to join us and Rotary International and the Rotary Club of Milton Windward in making sure this program is given proper recognition. And this is given under my hand and the seal of the City of Milton, Georgia, on the 17th day of February 2016. As I said, it's an honor to present this proclamation, and if you guys would step forward along with the council to present it.
Joe, I knew this Joe said he was never gonna give me any recognition. I said,
You see, you just did. You didn't know it.
No, I call foul.
Hamilton, are you okay if we wait a few minutes? Okay, and then you can enjoy some of the meeting. Is council okay if I put off the next presentation till a couple other folks show up?
Sure.
I think they're on their way, so. All right, we got everybody here. All right, if, okay, with the council, we're going to just postpone this next proclamation for just a few minutes. So we'll move on to our public hearing. So, Stacy, if you please read the item.
The first and the only item in the public hearing is a consideration of an ordinance to adopt amendments to the fiscal 2016 budget for each fund of the city of Milton, Georgia, amending the amount shown in each budget as expenditures, and amending several items of revenue anticipations, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures to exceed actual funding available. This is agenda item number 16043. And I'll put on my assistant city manager hat.
Sure.
Talk about the budget.
Don't mess up your hair.
So as we discussed in the work session last week, there are a few amendments that we need to do for the mid-year at this time. In the general fund, we are amending the expenditures only. Revenues right now are trending as we expect them to be. We will continue to monitor that throughout the fiscal year to make sure that they are coming in as we anticipate them to. The expenditure appropriation increase will be an increase of $19,006, and I will go through that through each department. So in the information technology department, we are looking to decrease the line item for the intergovernmental agreement that we have with Johns Creek for GIS services. Currently, they are providing us a part-time employee for GIS services for the city of Milton, and they have expressed an interest in terminating the contract with us because they found a need to have that position on full-time for them. So we are running two parallel processes. We are advertising it as an in-house hire, and then we are also running an RFP process that should go out next week to look at possibly outsourcing it. So we'll look at both processes to make sure that whatever our end decision is going to be the best one for the city of Milton. So right now we're looking at a decrease in the information technology department of $25,900. We're moving this function out of IT and over into public works. It's just better suited over there. So when we get to the public works department, you'll see an increase in that line item or in that budget for this GIS position. In the municipal court budget, there's a decrease of $12,000, and this is for the rental of the Alpharetta Court facility. We did not occupy the space at the beginning of the fiscal year as anticipated. We are decreasing that line item to reflect the rental amount for the remainder of the year once we start occupying the space. And I believe that is going to begin soon. The renovation of that space is going to begin soon, right, Carter? He said it is.
It is.
Do you have any questions on that? so far?
Any questions? Well, go ahead.
Okay. In the
Yeah,
Public Works
public
Department,
comment.
you'll see the increase there of $56,906, and this is to account for the GIS position for the remainder of the year. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to run that process parallel with either hiring the person or outsourcing it. In other financing uses, this is where we account for operating transfers out to the different funds, and I will go through each one of these. In the operating transfer out to the capital projects fund, we're increasing that line by $10,435,171. That is offset by decreases in the operating transfers out to the capital grant fund and the capital projects fund for the revenue bond. In the capital grant fund, the GDOT is covering more than anticipated of the Crabapple at Birmingham intersection project, and so we are transferring $500,000 of the city city portion of the funding that is no longer required for that particular project, and we're moving that into the capital projects fund to cover other items in that fund. The operating transfers to the revenue bond fund is being decreased by $9,935,171, and this is to move the City Hall construction project out of the revenue bond fund because it's not accurate to account for it in that fund. When we put it in that fund, we were anticipating getting a revenue bond of more of a letter of credit or line of credit for the construction of Bell Memorial Park and the City Hall project, but we decided to do a more traditional line or more traditional revenue bond to pay for the construction of the Bell Memorial Park project, allowing us to pay for cash of the construction project for City Hall. So we're moving that project out of the revenue bond and into the capital projects fund. It's just simply accounting at this point. Okay, any questions on that so far?
Okay.
Okay. As I mentioned last week, in the E911 fund, this is where I made a mistake in the calculation of the fund balance. I pulled the beginning fund balance for FY16 from the ending fund balance of FY14 instead of FY15, thus misrepresenting the amount of money that we had in fund balance. I'm having to decrease the amount that we were transferring out of the E911 fund into the capital projects fund to help cover some of the cost of the North Fulton Radio Authority radio system. So we're decreasing that line by $256,374, and we're able to make up for it out of some of the most of the money that we are able to make up for it is out of the GDOT money that for the Crabapple at Birmingham intersection project. In the capital projects fund,
And just to clarify, just a question, but that's just a number mistake. It wasn't.
it was a formula
Obviously,
error,
we're not
and-
haven't lost any money or anything like
No.
that. It was just carrying it over. So
and that was on me. Sorry about that.
yeah, but no, there's no harm done. So as far as dollar wise,
In the city, or in the capital projects fund, we've already talked about City Hall project coming over from the revenue bond into the capital projects. Court renovations, the facility renovation costs are not as high as we anticipated. We weren't going to be able to do as much as we thought we would be able to in that facility. So we're decreasing that line item by $45,000. In the traffic calming line item under the Public Works Department, we are increasing that line by $64,000. And this is to do more traffic calming measures in the Crabapple area. And in community development, we are increasing the downtown Milton master plan line by $80,000. This is a new line item because of the desire to create a master plan in the downtown area of Crabapple. We thought we were going to be able to get LCI funding for that, but we were not successful in that. And that is pretty much all I have to present to you tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Bill.
When were we notified of the LCI?
I believe it was last week.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? I don't think we do.
No, we do not.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing, and then are there any more questions? Okay, now I'll open up for a motion.
This is a public hearing, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the first.
Close public hearing.
Okay, and we'll move on to our zoning agenda.
Okay.
If you'll call that item, Stacy.
Sure, the first item under the zoning agenda is consideration of RZ 16-01 to amend the Deerfield Form-Based Code, Chapter 64, Article 20, Article 1, General. This is agenda item number 16-033. The first presentation was at February 1st, 2016 City Council meeting, and Kathleen Field.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We discussed this text amendment at the workshop meeting last week. And as you remember, this is a request to, in terms of those parcels that are restricted to a maximum of 2 stories, this relates to those parcels of 2-story heights south of Bethany Bend Road, to allow them to receive transfer of development rights from other sending areas within the city. Planning Commission did review this at its January 27th, 2016 meeting and unanimously recommended approval of this text amendment. When we discussed this item at our workshop last week, there was a request that we look at those parcels that are limited to 2 stories in height but are next to or adjacent to residential zones. And we did do that, and we, as a result of that discussion, we authored the following language for this. That is that that within the 2-story height limit, the following parcels should not receive TDR south of Bethany Bend, and that parcels that are adjacent to AG1 agricultural districts, T2 transect zones, or properties zoned or developed for single-family dwelling units shall be restricted in terms of not having the TDRs allowed. So we have changed the language to reflect that restriction. So again, if they're adjacent to single-family zones and if it's north of Bethany Bend, those would not be allowed to have TDRs transferred to them. Otherwise, the other parcels with 2 stories would be.
Okay. Questions for Kathy? Karen?
Okay, I'm just making sure I read this right. It says here, under either of the following conditions, and A is the parcels located north of the center line of Bethany Bend. So that would mean anything north of Bethany Bend, you could not do it.
Excluded, correct.
Okay, so anything north of Bethany Bend will be excluded, and then south of Bethany Bend, it's excluded if it's adjacent to the basically single-family residential.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understood
Just
that.
good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Kathy. I'll do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay. Well, I'll ask for a motion then.
Mayor, I move that we approve RZ 16-01 to amend the Deerfield Form-Based Code, agenda item number 16-033.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion from Councilmember Longoria, second from Councilmember Morig. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, Stacy, if you'll please read the next item, unfinished business.
Consideration of an ordinance to adopt amendments to the fiscal 2016 budget for each fund of the city of Milton, Georgia, amending the amount shown in each budget as expenditures, amending the several items of revenue anticipations, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures to exceed actual funding available. This is agenda item number 16-034. First presentation was the February 1st, 2016 regular council meeting. Public hearing was held at February 17, 2016 regular council meeting just a few minutes ago. And I will present the item. We've already spoken about the budget amendments. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do we, just formality, do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, any questions? I'll open up for motion then.
Mayor, I move that we approve the ordinance to adopt amendments to the fiscal 2016 budget, agenda item number 16-034.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Longoria, second for approval from Councilmember Morrig. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We don't have any items under new business, so we'll move on to reports. And again, if Hamilton's okay with just waiting a few more minutes, I think they said about 30 minutes, so it's a fairly quick meeting, so we'll move on to reports. Anything council wants, Matt?
I went to go vote today at the new Milton Library, so I just want to remind everybody, if you have a chance, you can do early voting, and it's there, so just let you know.
Okay.
I went Monday, and it's not very crowded.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to staff reports. Before we go, I'll just, make a comment. Steve, welcome to the hot seat there. We appreciate you being there. So, as our interim city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be very quick, and my apologies for being late on my very first day. Dealing with some very important business. I'll just turn it over. I believe fire is our first report. So, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates here. The CERT program, the coordinator for that program has drafted the mission statement and vision statement for that program, as well as the policies for that CERT program. He's scheduled to attend the National Fire Academy for the training to be a certified instructor and program coordinator, which is probably one of the better programs being offered throughout the country through the National Fire Academy. So the program's moving along pretty good, at a good pace. He's doing a good job putting everything together, and he's gotten a lot of support. We're already starting to see folks emailing us, how can they get involved, so the word's kind of trickling out. Not that we did anything, but it seems like the word is getting out, so which is good. The final programming for the North Fulton radio system, the second touch, is at the end of this month, and what that does is it incorporates the new Fulton County radio system, all of their channels into our radio system. So we'll have ease of communication. We won't be dealing with an older system into our new system. Everybody will be on the same page and easy communications back and forth. So we'll be able to share a lot more at this point. Specifically, like with Johns Creek, was on the Fulton County system, but we run mutual aid with them and such. So we had a commercial structure fire on Highway 9 on Super Bowl Sunday. And the reason I bring that up is that we had discussed in the past about fire pre-plans, and that we go out and we look at all the commercial structures. And that's just one of those buildings that we have a pre-plan for, so the crews going into that building knew what to expect. And they knew the building next to it had greater hazards in it than the building we went into that actually had the fire. So they're just a clear example of how those pre-plans really pay off, because the crews going in know what to expect, what they're going to encounter on the inside. Because commercial structure fires tend to be much more dangerous with the contents in those buildings than a regular structure fire or a home fire. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. And then this past Sunday we had a fire on Hopewell Road, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. We're continuing our investigation on that, so once that closes, you'll see some more information come out on that particular fire as well. The good thing, no injuries, and the crews did a great job protecting the exposures on each side of that building. So no other damage was sustained by any other residents there or their properties. The last thing is a fire facilities update. We're looking and watching the growth in the areas and our response times and the call volume increases. So in a future work session, we're going to bring to you a plan to look at fire facilities and where they should be, and how we're going to make sure that we're providing the proper coverage throughout the city with our fire protection. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully in March, if not, it'll definitely be in April. So, any questions?
Any questions? Bill and then Matt.
Chief, the fire on Highway 9, you mentioned the structure next to it had hazardous material in it.
Yes, sir. It has LP gas tanks in there as well as Freon tanks. It's an AC company, and they store a lot of hazardous materials in there. So, and we had that on our radar. Like I said, when we go in there and do the fire pre-plans, we document all of that, and then we have access to it in our computers on scene. So once we pull up, the battalion chief can pull that information up, as well as the crews and the engines, pull that information up and look. And they knew that the building that we were dealing with was on the right side pulling in, so they knew the address of it, and they knew the one on the left was the one with the hazardous materials in it. So again, it makes for a much safer operation for us. Our tactics may change a little differently, if we knew we were dealing with the other side. So.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and remind me again, I'm trying to think, what is the process for a commercial business to have a pre-plan executed, or does it happen automatically upon the construction of the building, or what typically initiates the pre-plan?
Well, if it's a new building, obviously we do it as soon as they receive their permits and all, and then we go ahead and do it from that point. But existing buildings or change of occupancy, we will go in as well as soon as that's done and inspect the building, make sure it's up to code, as well as document the contents of the building, what type of this particular was doing some commercial metal manufacturing. So we knew that going in, and that's how we do that once those, like I said, change of occupancy and something like that, we can go ahead and record that, and then on an annual basis, we update that. Okay. So just in case they change or add something to that.
So it's automatic?
It is,
yeah.
Yes.
Good.
And I was just looking earlier today, as I mentioned last time, it was that we did 348 fire pre-plans last year, and we've already done 41 this year. So we do those, and we repeat. So if you ever get a phone call as to why they keep coming by, it's just for that reason. If there's a change in occupancy, a change in the way the building was designed originally from the plans, and then they went ahead and got a permit to do some alterations, we want to get in there and make sure that we see that.
So do you get is it when someone pulls a new business permit, is that how you get notification? Change
Correct.
of occupancy?
Of any new business or any change to an existing business.
Okay.
Yes. But if it's the same business as it was last year, we'll still go back and make
Site
sure
visit.
that, we'll do an annual inspection as well as a fire pre-plan.
Okay, great.
A lot of times we like to update phone numbers and such to contact business owners and stuff like that, so that can change as well. So it helps us in the middle of the night especially.
Bill?
That's, you mentioned about changes in occupancy and changes in services or use anyways. How frequently in going through this review process have you found changes in use where modifications have been made that have not been permitted?
I can't say that off the top of my head. I can give you any examples of that.
Yeah.
The community development does a good job informing us of the new permits, and we receive those as they're being pulled. So then the Fire Prevention Bureau gets involved right away, and then we go out and do the inspection with the CO, because they do an 80% and 100% inspection prior to the actual CO.
Right, but it's not uncommon for businesses to make modifications without permitting it.
I would imagine that might be possible.
You think so?
Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right, Finance?
And that's Bernadette's walking up
Yeah,
here.
Bernadette's got it.
Yes, she's handling it. So, as she's walking up here, I wanted to mention one thing that Councilmember Thurman asked last week was what was the ending fund balance for FY15? We don't have a good number from our auditors. The ending fund balance is looking to be a little under $100,000. We anticipated $9.2 million when we formulated the FY16 budget, so we're looking at $900,000 more than what we anticipated. So as we go through the FY17 budget process, we'll keep that in mind as we're formulating that budget.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To tag on to the end of that information, our auditors have informed us that they're just finishing up some of the end work here, and they should have our financial statements for the end of the year and all of our data analysis towards the end of this week. So that's our date that we're shooting for. And then Stacy and I will begin doing all the management discussion and analysis and combining all the statistical reports to start preparing the CAFR. In addition, we have on March 31st, the businesses have to renew their business license. We have the process in place with code enforcement to make sure that everyone is in line again following those dates this year. And then lastly, we have the 5 phases that were issued on February 2nd for those real properties with outstanding balances. And Honor and I went through some of the prior years to kind of get an idea of how we've been looking over the years with how many 5 phases have been issued and how many tax sales we've had. And we average about 205 5 phases issued each year, but we've only had a tax sale. The last time was August 2012. So by the time we get around to the tax sale, typically between payments made by these property owners or other title issues, meaning we can't put it up for sale. So we've only had that one tax sale within those past few years, and 3 properties were sold at that tax sale. Any other questions regarding anything in finance?
Any questions? Stacy, you have any? Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, Bernadette. All right. IT.
I have to turn down the volume for myself because I don't know how loud I am. Well, last month we had an uptick in the number of end users that we support. That doesn't reflect on the number of actual employees we have, but it does reflect that we have brought new people on that are currently contractors. I don't recall the actual number of employees we have in the city. It's in the 150, 160, and then the rest of those would be contractors who work for the city that we provide cloud services to. So we did 137 help desk requests, a big drop from the month before, understandable, since we finished the deployment of the cloud environment. And at this point, we're transitioning to day-to-day operations where we'll identify any systemic problems or individual problems that may occur going forward. Also, one thing I'm starting as a network project is to segment our network. Try not to get too technical. I'm not going to do that. Since we've expanded from City Hall to Station 43, and next year we'll be expanding to a new City Hall, but remaining here, we're expanding the number of locations we have, so we should also split up our network into individual groups. So each group will have its own performance measurements and security protocols, so that everyone is isolated from one another. It's basically to primarily boost performance and increase security. Any questions?
Joe?
I know a lot
Everybody looked at me. Well, yeah, there's a lot of questions I could ask you, but I understand what you're trying to do, and that makes sense. How does the work that our outsourcing partner, the group that manages all of our servers and stuff now, how does that play into what we're doing there? Does each location have its own VPN?
They manage the overall back-end. VC3 has a great number of our servers and our critical data and stuff up in their data center. But the network environment is located here. The hardware that runs it and separates the police from City Hall, or police from fire, or police from the.
So do we have separate internet connections for each location? Are we somehow connected between and rely on a single connection?
We have I think 5 or 6 different circuits coming out of City Hall. Some of them, imagine City Hall as the hub, right. And then we have spokes going out in each direction. Some for phones. We have a connection to Alpharetta. We have a connection to VC3. Different T1 lines for smaller lines for like a connection to GBI, things like that. So they all come in here together, and we do have our network set up in segments already. But just to keep things growing properly, we need to segment things out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm good. Thanks, Dave. You know me. As long as it turns on, you can hear us. I'm good. Communications and engagement.
Good evening. I have one thing to remind you all of. It's Mayor's Run, February 27th, hopefully coming up at 7:30 a.m. If any of you are interested in running, you're more than welcome. And please encourage your friends and family to register. That's all I have to make for you all.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Yes. All right. HR, Sam.
Just a couple of things. Our compensation study project kicks off with a consultant in town on February the 29th with all the department heads, and staff will be working with the consultant on that day to sort of tell their issues and let them know what's going on, and we'll build the project out from there. The other issue is that with the help of the police department, this week we started active shooter training. Sergeant Ward did an excellent job. We're trying to make that, although I don't use the word mandatory, somewhat mandatory for everybody in City Hall. Get everyone on the same page with that issue, so God forbid if there is an incident, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. That's all that I have. Are there any questions I can answer?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know if the other guys will get here, so Hamilton, I'll go ahead and start with the proclamation recognizing Student Painters Day. As most of you guys are aware, we've had other individuals. Last year we made a proclamation, so should be aware with the Student Painters Organization, which I think is a great organization and not only providing a service, but I think a lot of young kids coming out of college and a good experience learning how to run their own business and dealing with issues. So I think it's a great program. So tonight I've got a proclamation recognizing Student Painters Day 2016. Whereas Student Painters, a section of young entrepreneurs across America, gives college students across Milton valuable insights as well as hands-on entrepreneurial experience by providing them with a unique opportunity to run their own small business. And whereas Student Painters allow students to earn money for tuition and college expenses while helping them develop the tools they need to become Milton's next generation of great business leaders. And whereas Student Painters fosters personal and professional growth within Milton's student community and promotes a spirit of integrity and innovation. And whereas Kennesaw State University students Andrew London and Ryder Deaton and University of Georgia student Hamilton Wexler have embarked on a journey that will truly prepare them for life after college. And whereas the City of Milton congratulates Hamilton Wexler, Andrew London, and Ryder Deaton on maintaining and managing their own small business and wishes them success in all their future endeavors. Now, therefore, we, as the mayor and the City of Milton, hereby dedicate Wednesday, February 17, 2017, a Student Painters Day 2016 in the City of Milton, given under my hand and seal of the City of Milton, Georgia, on the 17th day of February. And Hamilton, if you can step up and the council join me. Grill these guys when we talk about it and ask them how they deal with issues and cost overruns and all that. So they're really good at learning a lot. So you're very much making sure that you want to get a picture with your phone or anything? Okay. Good luck. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
This is record.
Very, very efficient meeting, Joe.
Way to go. You notice
I'll take all
Bert's
the
not
credit.
here.
That's
Maybe
what it
Talk
is.
so much.
Yeah.
We got it. That's what we got to say
telling
next
you.
time.
Okay.
Is that it? We done?
That'll conclude this meeting. Do I have does anybody else have anything? Steve, you have anything? Carter? Ken? No, wait a minute. I don't think you said anything tonight, did you?
It's been quiet.
We don't have to. You can't bill us.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All right, do I have a motion to
So
close the
moved.
meeting?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.